Hello YouTube. This is BirdOPrey5 again. That's my dog if you hear her in the background. I saw Anti-Tracker's video earlier this morning and I wasn't expecting it. I wanted to say a personal thank you to him. I honestly did send him my link after the 2-hour and 20-minute stream that I had no idea how long I'd went that day. Yes, Sassy, that's somebody is probably walking past the house. Oh, Sassy, please go. Oh, of course. Our neighbor is walking their dog in front of the house. Sassy, as you might tell, is a beagle. And beagles are quite vocal. It'll end in a second. These are the tribulations of doing a live stream out of your living room instead of a nice tucked away attic or back room someplace. I'm doing okay, Darth. Haven't heard from the hospital bed company yet. Hopefully they will get in touch with me tomorrow. I did put an update in the last video. The company has changed its policy a little. You still have to give them the credit card up front. They still need you to sign papers saying that you agree to pay for all the possible parts it could possibly be. For me, it's like $2,200 that they think it could be if everything they think it could be needed to be replaced. But they're pretty sure it'll only be one or two things, so we're hopefully looking at only a few $100, which is better than $2,200. But the difference is they won't actually charge me $2,200 and refund me the rest. They still require the credit card and the paperwork that says I promise to pay up to $2,200, but they won't charge me until they actually come and do it. So that's an improvement, I guess. An improvement from what it was. So, you know, small things. But back to Anti-Tracker's video. I started the video. I really had no idea where he was going. I remember the first thing I posted, I was pissed off that somehow Thomas Potts beat me to being first comment on the video, literally by 2 seconds. I went and I was ready to write first, and I looked, Thomas Potts first, 2 seconds ago. So I just typed a bunch of exclamation points to show how upset I was. And then like 5 seconds after that, Alex had also put in first. And while I was still mad about that, I started to hear Anti-Tracker kind of transition to something a bit more serious, and I guess it was like a minute and a half in, and I was like, oh my God, he doesn't have to do this, but he's doing it. And you know, I thank him for asking people to come. I have gotten a few new subscriptions today, and whether even if nobody else comes by, it was just nice of him to acknowledge. You know, I mean, I have my friends I've had. I don't see them as much as I used to, obviously, but when we do get together, it's like old times. And you know what? Everybody, we're all hitting 40s. We're all in our 40s or about to hit 40 now. We've all had pains for a long time. Some of my friends have gone through cancer. Some have, had very sad things happen to them. So it's not like any one person, no matter how physically bad they are, has a monopoly on bad luck, on illness, on on anything, really. Very few people get to 40 without some major loss in their life, whether it's personal or a loved one. And, it's just, it's different when you're the person in the wheelchair and not a loved one or a friend. But I wouldn't want that to be. If I had the chance, I know I'd volunteer. I don't know if I ever did, if this is something predetermined, but I know I'm that type of person that if God gave me the option that, hey, it's going to be you or it's going to be your loved one, I would have said, do it to me. Did that ever happen? Probably not. Probably not. But, that's just the way it is. That said, I am a terrible, terrible person to be handicapped. I met people... Oh, Sassy. Yeah, good dog, Sassy, yes. Is there anybody coming? No, there's nobody coming to the house. It's just raining out. Anyway, when I was in the rehab place, I met some people who were far worse than me. I mean, I feel Anti-Tracker was talking about... Come on, Sassy, please, baby. Anti-Tracker was talking about how he kind of felt bad, complaining about his... Okay, hold on 1 minute, you guys. I'll be right back. Just hold on, guys. It's okay. And we're back. Can you guys hear me? I don't want to start talking again like last time. If you guys can't hear me. Hi, Track Gamer. Did I miss anybody else? So, pills, not bills. Yeah, that's true. That's better. Pills, not bills. The bills will come, I'm sure. Okay, thanks, Darth. So, where I was saying, where Anti-Tracker was saying he was feeling bad about talking about his pain of arthritis, and and then he looks and he hears of my story and he's like, it doesn't compare. But I look at me, who have two, or at least 1.5, 2 working arms and 1.5 working hands. And I look at the poor guy who was in the rehab center who didn't have any use of his arms or legs. He had a wheelchair, but he had to blow into a tube to move around. I mean, he had all to do to move his head left to right. And, no matter how bad you think you are, there's somebody off worse than you. And that's true for me, too. And I kind of feel bad because I see handicapped people all the time who are in worse shape than me, who somehow manage to do a lot more in life than I do. I mean, they go surfing. Okay, it's not really surfing, but they're on a surfboard. They go parachuting, and I guess if I got to that point, I might parachute too, because you figure, what's the worst that's going to happen? But I mean, there are people who go out every day. They go out in their wheelchair, and they take, I mean, granted, they can fit into buses and cars easier than I can, but they do it. They go out to restaurants. They go out to places. Some of them go to work. And I don't know. I mean, I've always felt guilty that I haven't been able to do any of that stuff yet. Maybe one day. I don't know. But we've all got our pain. We've all got our guilt. And you know, like I was saying with my friends, we've all been through something. And I know Star Trek 5 was cheesy, but you know, when Cybok tells everybody your pain runs the deepest of all, he's not wrong, because it's your pain. I mean, when I was 22 or 25 and walking, but having terrible sciatica pain in my back, possibly because of that one time I jumped onto the hood of a moving Jeep, which is another story, but possibly because of that. Possibly because of one time I had a snow tubing accident where I hit a barrier head on at full speed, or it could have just been that I've got weak backbones. Who knows? But it didn't come out right. But for whatever the reason, I mean, that pain was the worst pain it could be. It scared me. It hurt as like hell. And if somebody asked on a scale of 1 to 10, what was that pain? It was a 10 at times. Then I got kidney stones. And then I was like, oh, this is what a 10 feels like. Because this is the worst pain I've ever been in, and clearly anybody could ever possibly be in. And then I got stage 4 bed sores for months, and morphine had become completely useless. And then I felt, wow, so this is what a 10 on the pain scale really feels like. But you know what? It doesn't matter whether it was arthritis or sciatica or kidney stones or literally the flesh falling off your back, because it all hurts, and it's happening to you, and it's real. And it doesn't matter if it's arguably a little less than the person next to you, or a little more, or even a lot less, or a lot more. It's you, it's real, and you know, you deserve sympathy. Nobody doesn't deserve sympathy because they're not hurting as bad as someone else. We can always find somebody who got hurt more, who was physically tortured or something. I mean, I don't care how much you hurt. Just because you're not hurting the most of anyone in history doesn't mean you're not entitled to sympathy for your pain. It doesn't mean that you need to feel bad because you're complaining about, you know, the pain in your life. That don't ever feel bad for that. And certainly don't ever feel you can't talk to me about your pain because you think, I think, oh, well, my pain is so much worse than yours. I mean, right now, thank God, I'm not really in all that much pain. I was in pain when I was in the hospital. I mean, when I was in the hospital, screaming in pain, and you want to come in and tell me, oh, my elbow hurts, maybe don't tell me when I'm screaming in pain in the hospital. But, when I'm good and I'm online and I'm trying to be as normal a person as possible, I don't mind hearing about pain. It's real. I'm here to give sympathy. I'm just like any other person. Okay? That's not a problem. I don't want it to ever be a problem. My friends know this. I've explained it to them. I don't want anyone online to feel weird that you can't be honest with me. Be honest. I know people have pain. I know it's real, and I know it hurts for whatever reason, whether it's arthritis or kidney stones or bad backs, gallstones, fibromyalgia, though I'm really not sure what exactly that is, but it's something. All the types of neuropathies. I've heard horrible stories with all types of neuropathies. I mean, it's real, it's out there, and I feel for you. Okay, I don't weigh you versus me. I don't. No, I don't think anybody really does that. I hope not. Certainly not on pain. When people go and start getting, again, like pain, depression is real. So I know there are people out there who are depressed because they feel their life is terrible. And I understand that, and I have sympathy for that too. I have a little less sympathy for the people who are completely healthy, but are depressed because they don't have a girlfriend and haven't had a girlfriend for a year or something, and they act like, oh, it's the worst thing in the world to be lonely. Let me tell you, I've been lonely, and it's not the worst thing in the world. There are worse things. So a little less sympathy on that, but even that, I know that depression is real and it affects everyone differently. So I'm not going to say there's no sympathy, but it's a little less. Don't tell me about your pain all you want, and I will sympathize with you. I will say a prayer for you, and I will do what I can. Not that I can do much, but don't tell me about how, it's been 6 months since you've been laid and you don't even know why you should live anymore, because that's just crazy. Okay, that I can't. That I have a hard time. Anyway. Again, thank you, Anti-Tracker. Thank you to everybody who was here that day. Thank you guys who are here now. To the comments, Darth Raven, we hear you. Pills are your friends. Some pills are. You're alive and you can still live. I'm trying, buddy. It's not parachuting if you're disabled. It's being thrown from a plane. I guess that's true. That is true. You, son, are an idiot. Lol. See, I guess I should have been reading these comments all along, because I don't know why. I mean, I kind of remember, but I kind of forget why that was funny. Lol, you have stupiditis. Wanting you jumped onto the hood. Oh, yes, I jumped onto the hood of a moving Jeep. Let me get through the comments, and if there's time, if Anti-Tracker hasn't gone live yet, I'll tell you about it. But Bird, you're on Discord. We're all weirdos. That's true. Although I don't have Discord open at the moment, but I'll open it when this is done. Well, not saying it's the worst thing, but it does suck being lonely. Oh, it sucks. Don't get me wrong. I was lonely a long, long part of my life. To a point, still am. In a way, in another way, I am not. But it sucks. But on the scale of suckiness, I would take being lonely over being paralyzed 365 days a year. And however many days are in a decade, I take it that way too. So, you know. The Jeep. I'm watching Patron. I don't know what I'm watching Patron. I'll let you know. Okay. Yeah, he said late today, like 7:30. That's true. So there's time. Okay, so the Jeep story. So I was in college, and there was this student, fellow student, and we were friendly, and we were in the engineering building, and I don't remember the details of exactly what led to what, but I felt like she wasn't giving me a chance. I don't know, something I'd said or whatever, she took it the wrong way, and it made no sense. Like she was misunderstanding what I meant or what I said, and she was leaving because she was pissed at me. But I honestly didn't do anything wrong. She kind of misheard it, or for whatever reason misunderstood me. Now it also happened to be the day of a job fair, so I was dressed in like a full. I had a suit on. I probably took the jacket off, so I probably had just a dress shirt and tie on, and the nice pants, rather than, you know, jeans or whatever I would have been wearing on a regular day. And you know, in the evening, first we were all members of the same professional engineering fraternity. It's called a fraternity, even though it was co-ed. And we had an office in the engineering building at school, and so at night, students were allowed to park right in front of the building. During the day, it was only for faculty. So it was evening, she was parked right in front of the building, and she's got mad and she's running out the door. So I'm kind of chasing after her, and she gets in her Jeep. Now understand, I always had Jeeps. My first car was a 1986 Jeep Cherokee. I got it in 1996, the year I got my license. I had that until 1999, I believe. I was in college at that point. The white Jeep had an engine problem. I was driving down a main road towards my college, and the accelerator got stuck open, and quick thinking, I got into neutral and stopped the car, but the engine kept speeding up, and it was a big deal, and my mom was like, "Ah, it's not safe anymore." So we leased a 1996 Grand Cherokee in 1999. So I had a nice looking couple of year old Grand Cherokee at this point in college, and I had turned not all my friends, but I turned a number of my friends into Jeep fans, including this girl. So she had a slightly newer Jeep than mine. She had a 1999 Grand Cherokee, which is a little rounder, and the hood is not as flat as my Grand Cherokee. So she gets into her Jeep, which is parked like right outside the front door of the school, and I'm like yelling at her, "Come on, hold up, let me explain," or whatever. And she's like not giving me time of day. So I'm like, well, if I get on her hood, surely she won't drive away. So I jumped on her hood. But you know what? She backed up. She turned. And I was still hanging on. And then she kind of gunned it. And luckily, I went rolling off to the side and not the front. And like some people were all watching from the building, and they were, I mean, some were hysterical laughing, others were like, "Oh my God, I can't believe that just happened." And I fell and I hit the ground hard, and my clothes were all ripped, my elbows were bloody, my hands were scratched, and it was like my nice clothes, it was all ripped. But you know what? She stopped. She backed up. She saw how bad I got hurt. And she helped me get cleaned back up. So it was worth it. We talked and we resolved the issue. So it might not have been the smartest move, but it worked. It worked. Probably would get arrested for doing that today, but that was something you could do in the 90s and early 2000s. I mean, there was also, I used to sell knives out of the back of my Jeep on campus. I'd go to campus, I'd open up the back of my Jeep. I had boxes and boxes of knives, all different types of knives and some swords. I made a price list. I called it Kapla Blades. And when I would sell, I would give away music, MP3 CDs. That was Kapla Records. But Kapla Blades was out of the back of my Jeep, and people would come up to me at $3 to $5 for different knives. Just sold them out of the back of the Jeep. Made a little extra money on the side. And that was what I did in college. I mean, you could not do that now. I brought my batleth in to a public speaking class in college. We had to do a speech where you used a prop. So I said, I'll take a batleth. And I did a speech on the history of the batleth, or sword of honor. And apparently batleths originally had something to do with the hull of old Klingon ships, wooden ships, like sailing ships, not spaceships. And I mean, I know Kales cut off a lock of his hair and stuck it in the lava and fashioned the first bat'leth that way, but I guess in beta canon, if you read up on these things, they talk about how they were used to like reinforce the hull of ships, and that's why they kind of got that rounded shape. So that was all stuff I spoke about, and I was walking around campus that whole day holding a somewhat sharpened bat'leth. So again, nothing you could do today. Another thing we did in college, and by we I mean I, and again, I was an electrical engineering major, and I had a few extra things left over after a project, including a circuit board, a AA battery, a blinking red LED, and several ounces of clay. So I put the clay into like a square, stuck it to the circuit board with a battery and a blinking red light. I soldered on some wires, and it kind of looked like it might have been some type of plastic explosive. And I taped it to a professor's door. The professor happened to be Middle Eastern. It didn't dawn on me that, that was anything big. This was pre-9/11. And he thought it was hysterical, because that's what people used to be like in those days. That was funny. That wasn't close down the school, call in a bomb threat, and send a kid to jail. That was engineers having fun with each other. Miss the 90s. Miss the 90s. Did you think you were Captain America? Well, I didn't have a shield. Did I? I was probably did think I was invincible. I mean, most people do at that point in their lives. Oh yeah, I would get arrested for every good story I have up until the time I was 30, I would probably get arrested for today. But they were just good stories back then. I mean, and not only stories, I mean, you, sir, are freaking awesome. I'll thank you, Darth. To be or not, Captain Redneck. Captain is on the bridge. And I'm sorry I'm not as sexy as Mrs. Anti-Tracker. Captain Redneck. To be or not to be, that is the question which preoccupies our people, Captain Kirk. We need breathing room. Earth, Hitler, 1938. And then the Chancellor says something like, well, I see we still have a ways to go, because of course he was knowledgeable in Nazi Germany. Guess it's a bit scary to think that the Nazis are still so important in the 22nd or 23rd century that even the Klingons were learning about them. Earth, Hitler, 1938, exactly. Yeah, and Gorkon. Chancellor Gorkon, you can see it in his eyes. He knows. He knows who Hitler was. But that's a great movie. I mean, Star Trek VI is a great movie, but it's especially a better movie if you've got the director's cut, where they put in that the Klingon who was going to assassinate the Chancellor's daughter, who became Chancellor, turned out to actually be a Federation person. In fact, was it Odo, the actor who played Odo? Or I'm not sure if he was the killer, but he was involved. The conspirators. Mr. Romulan, the Romulan ambassador, never got a name. The names of the Federation people and the Klingons, they all had names. But then it was just Romulan ambassador. Couldn't give him a name, Ambassador Romulus or something? I don't know. You nerd. Yeah, I am. I'm a nerd. Excuse me. Captain Redneck says, the Nazis are long gone. We obliterated them in the 1940s. They'll always be in our history, though, always on our minds. We will never allow such hatred and malevolence again. Let's hope so. Let's hope so. You know, my grandfather was in World War II. He fought in Italy, and he got shot, I believe, in Germany at the Battle of the Bulge, I'm told. He got shot in the leg. He ended up getting the Purple Heart. Unfortunately, he passed away when I was a young teenager. We never got to hear any real war stories, though my great uncle is still alive. He was also in World War II. He was in the Pacific Theater, but he won't talk about the war, which is fine. He's a different person. I think my grandfather probably would have if I had asked and I was old enough, but I won't know. So, I try to read up on it. I don't know. Everybody compares it. Everybody compares everything to Hitler, to the Nazis, and for a long time I thought that was an absurd comparison. Of course, now I don't know. Sometimes you don't know. Obviously, modern day American politicians aren't Nazis on either side, but some of the tactics being used by people not in power, but trying to get other people into power, you know, it sounds a lot like the tactics the Nazis used. So even though those people aren't quite in power, if they're putting people they want in power, it's scary. Yeah, Grandpa, Papa I used to call him. His wife, my grandmother, is still alive, and just yesterday became a great-grandmother. My oldest cousin had a daughter, so she got to meet her first great-grandchild, which is good because, I mean, I'm 40. I might have had one 10 years ago, but I didn't. And my sister, a couple of years younger than me, also has not procreated as of yet, so was happy my grandmother got to meet a great-grandkid, as she's not getting any younger, but she's doing good, so. Captain Redneck says, my grandpa was in World War II too, meaning two also. but he wasn't a soldier. He was an airplane mechanic. He never saw a battle. You know, it's weird because kind of like my adopted grandfather, say, who in person was actually my boss for the 10 years or so I had a real job, although he died in 2006, so he was only alive for, say, 6 of the 10 years. Sidney Frank, and if you Wikipedia Sidney E. Frank, you will see he's a legit, he was a legit big deal billionaire person. He did mechanical plane mechanics in World War II. He fixed engines, I believe in India. He was stationed there, but he was a mechanic. He applied for the job, he says. He had really not much idea of what he was doing, but he was a quick learn. And the only real question they asked him was, do you know how to use a slide rule? And he lied and said yes. He said, okay, well, come back this afternoon, there's a test. So he went out, bought a slide rule, supposedly read the instructions of how to use it, and came back that afternoon and passed the test. And that's how he became an aircraft mechanic. I don't know if it's 100% true, but I've got no reason to doubt it. Nobody speaks about the war or wars. My granddads refused to speak about it, and the revolution and the Civil War. I'm only now piecing together what he done. Congratulations to her and on your cousin. Thank you, Darth. Most people don't speak about the wars. That's true. Though I do remember hearing from my father, who has also passed away since, that his father, my grandfather, did talk to him a little bit about war, because both my father and my uncle grew up during Vietnam and had draft cards, and had the war gone on much longer, either or both or one of them could have been drafted. And my grandfather was telling him about how at least he was fighting in Europe, and that they would have find houses to sleep in, and it was halfway civilized, but like you're going off to a jungle somewhere, and it's not going to be what his war was. I guess it'd be closer to what my great uncle's was, fighting in the Pacific. So I know they spoke a bit. War is an evil thing, and when you think about it, it's like, okay, I will defend, even if I had to get out in my wheelchair, I would defend this country from an invasion, no question. But to invade another country, to put my life on a line, to invade another country, yeah, I can understand preemptive actions and things, but how does it ever get so bad that millions of people are on the field of battle, fighting it out? You would think that people would just say no, in mass. You'd be like, no, I'm not all going to war. But I guess you have to. I mean, certainly defense, yes, but the offense, I know, I can't imagine it, because we're so far removed from that reality. And yeah, there's soldiers today. I mean, Anti-Tracker is a veteran himself, though he didn't actually go into wars. I know people who have been at war in battlefields, and they have my respect. And okay, Sassy, okay. They have my respect, but I don't know how it happens. We don't want to think about it. It's probably half the issue, half the problem. So much of the country doesn't have to think about it, so we don't, and things fester. Captain Redneck. My grandpa also served in Korea in the same capacity. He talked about wars all the time. Darth Raven, my grandpa, was arrested for walking into a bar and handing a box to a soldier from the Empire, and it had a grenade in it, killing 6 people. Spent 5 months for rebellion. Ouch. War gets bad because people in power want to remain in power. Sometimes it's good, like when the Allies lost so much to defeat the Axis. We had to. Yep, I mean, we had to. Darth. I'm proud to say my great-great-grandfather is first cousin to the man who led the revolution in Ireland. I have his picture hanging in my home. The man who led the revolution in Ireland. I might be way off on my Irish history here, Darth, and if I am, my apologies. Is that man Michael Collins? Or was he later? Late to the party. Take care, Captain Redneck. It was Michael Collins. I knew. I knew that little bit about Irish history. You know why? Because the company I worked for, from Sydney Frank Importing, we put out Michael Collins Irish whiskey. We had to get approval from his family, and it was a good whiskey. Unfortunately, the competitor bought the entire distillery and shut it down. That's just the way the alcohol business works. So that's what we actually had a history lesson at work about Michael Collins and how to be careful, because it's a touchy subject depending on who your clientele is. One man's freedom fighter is another man's terrorist. So you kind of briefed us on where and what to say and not to say. And certainly don't lie and say it's about the Michael Collins who was the third person on the Apollo 11 mission, right? Neil Armstrong first on the moon, Buzz Aldrin second on the moon, and Michael Collins stayed up orbiting the moon waiting for them to come back. Some of the salespeople who didn't want to associate it with the real Michael Collins thought they might get away saying, "Oh, it's named after the astronaut." But no, that didn't go over. That didn't go over well. Well, thank you guys for hanging out again. again, I just wanted to thank Anti-Tracker for his touching video. I appreciate it, and for him and all of you, you know, yes, my life is different than most people, but you know, I strive not to be much different than I was before I got sick. So don't ever feel you're not going to get sympathy from me, or that your troubles don't matter as much as mine, because all of our troubles matter to all of us. So with that, you guys, kapla. And some of you, maybe I will see if Anti-Tracker does his patron-only live stream tonight. Otherwise, I'll see you on Discord. Take care. Yeah, I'm going to jump into chat, Discord chat now. Take care, everybody.